The novel opens with a breaking news report on television. A boy who had been held captive for 12 years has finally been rescued. He was a victim of kidnapping, imprisonment, and forced labor at the hands of a man known as Mr. P. The boy, later revealed to be the protagonist, had both hearing and speech impairments, something Mr. P had known beforehand, making him an easy target. When the police arrived at the scene, they found him in a warehouse overflowing with books. His severe injuries suggested prolonged suffering, prompting authorities to rush him to the hospital for immediate care. It is later revealed that his name is Shin Woo-jin, an 18-year-old young man. The attending female doctor is taken aback by his striking features. Upon examining him, she confirms his hearing loss and, to assess his cognitive state, writes a question on a notepad asking for his name. His unexpected response, calling himself a son of a bitch, leaves the medical staff in shock. The story then flashes back to Woo-jin's past, showing him sitting on the floor, eating rice while enduring harsh treatment. Cold and starving, he desperately eats a cockroach crawling on one of the books to ease his hunger. The doctor, upon noticing the countless scars on his body, wonders just how much pain he had to endure. Later, the doctors inform Woo-jin that his test results aren't alarming and that he is safe in the hospital. However, as soon as they leave, a flood of reporters swarms the area, bombarding the medical staff and security with questions about Woo-jin. Frustrated, the doctor warns them that if they do not leave immediately, she will report them for trespassing. Meanwhile, Woo-jin lies on his bed, mentally naming objects around him as they come into focus. His attention is drawn to an older man across the room, and instinctively he begins analyzing him. His diagnosis, height, weight, body marks, accessories, and relationships. Using these observations, he pieces together the cause of the man's injuries and determines the best first aid response. Just as he reaches a conclusion, the doctor returns, asking if he had slept well and whether he was hungry. Woo-jin shifts his focus to her face, scrutinizing her expression. He determines that her smile is genuine and, reassured that she poses no threat, accepts the food. As soon as he takes a bite, he is overwhelmed by the taste, devouring it ravenously. Watching him eat with such desperation, the doctor wonders what kind of hell he must have endured. As she voices her concern, her phone rings. It's Woo-jin's family. She informs him of the call, and though his hearing is impaired, he manages to make out her words. After she leaves the room, he glances at the clock, calculating that his parents will arrive in exactly 1 minute and 22 seconds. As their footsteps echo in his mind, the sound grows louder, intensifying his anxiety. The moment his family enters, they rush toward him, embracing him and apologizing profusely. But instead of comfort, their presence only amplifies the pain in his head, causing him to moan in distress. In the next scene, we are introduced to Woo-jin's sister. She worries that meeting her brother after so long might be awkward, but despite her concerns, she still misses him and feels relieved that he's okay. Just then, as if on cue, the family returns home with Woo-jin. The long-awaited reunion finally happens. Bomi tries to welcome him warmly, but Woo-jin is too preoccupied, his eyes scanning the house and the framed photos on the walls. Their father, sensing the tension, steps in to ease Woo-jin's discomfort and shows him to his room. Their parents then suggest that Woo-jin and Bomi go together, which is when we officially learn her name. As they enter the room, the awkwardness between them is almost palpable. Woo-jin silently observes the space, mentally naming each item, slowly coming to the realization that this is his room. Bomi calls out to him, but when he turns to look at her, she finds herself taken aback by how handsome he is. Sweet home Alabama. Shaking off her thoughts, she offers to help him learn how to use a phone. Woo-jin, however, insists that he's fine on his own. This response disheartens Bomi, and she gently tells him that he doesn't have to be so formal with her. When Woo-jin powers on the phone, he is mesmerized by the technology. As Bomi tells him her number, she notices how effortlessly he types and immediately questions whether this is really his first time using a phone. Next, Bomi shows him how to search the internet. When it's Woo-jin's turn, the first word he searches is family. As he stares at the images on the screen, he seems to drift into a daze. After a moment, he looks at Bomi and softly calls her family and sister. Bomi smiles and reassures him, "That's right, family." Their conversation is interrupted when Woo-jin suddenly catches a scent. It's perfume. Or so he thinks. His mind instantly starts racing, recalling the origins of perfume and how it's made. Without thinking, he blurts out, "Good smell," startling Bomi. Then, as if drawn by instinct, he follows the scent like a mindless zombie, only to realize it isn't perfume at all, but food. Their father had prepared kimchi stew. Calling them over, he tells them to sit down and eat. The family gathers at the table, enjoying the meal together. Suddenly, we cut to a dimly lit interrogation room. A shady-looking man sits across from an investigator who stares him down. The investigator leans forward, his voice cold. "Your family died one by one, each year. Your wife, dead. Your mother, dead. Your sister-in-law, dead. 2 of your neighbors, dead." He narrows his eyes. "Are you seriously telling me it wasn't you?" The man, identified as Mr. P, shakes his head. "It wasn't me." The investigator slams his fist on the table. "All those deaths happened around you. Who else could it be?" Mr. P's expression darkens. His voice rises, almost frantic. "You don't understand. It was that bastard." A flashback takes us to a dimly lit warehouse. Woo-jin sits alone, engrossed in a book about autopsies. Back in the interrogation room, Mr. P clenches his fists and yells, "It was that damn bastard!"